I could find a red pill Instagram like that.
Well, I'm around a lot of attractive women at this studio.
Like, who wouldn't want the best? Like, do you want to date something that, like, do you want to, like, that's what we call settling. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Pink Pill. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest. Usually he is the man behind the scenes, but he is here with me today live in studio, Travis Flesher.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm usually the voice behind the rig, but now you get to see my face.
You guys might, now he is the big man on campus. He's humble about it, but this guy runs all the behind the scenes. You actually were the one that came up with the name Pink Pill for my podcast.
Well, yeah, because you kept on bringing up all these red pill guys and that guy, this guy, these people at our studio, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, honestly, you should just like shove it in their face and just call it Pink Pill. Because invent your own pill. Because like everyone else seems to. There's black pill, white pill, gray pill, red pill.
I know. I just feel, I felt very empowered when you said that. And I felt like you were just as excited about it as I was. And I was just like, I'm doing it. Like that. Like I was thinking of like Unleashed was one of the names. But as soon as you said Pink Pill, I was like, that's the one.
I think I love controversy. Or maybe I don't like controversy. What I like is having multiple perspectives because I can't feel good about having or hosting red pill type of people here unless I have like the other side, you know?
I like that you guys create balance, you know, and you create like it's got to be kind of, I feel like it would be hard to shift from one to the other though.
You mean from the engineer's perspective?
I guess maybe not from the engineer's perspective, but like I would have a tough time switching from that to like.
I mean, there is a level of customer service, you know, that happens. So we do have to, you know, not be like, oh my God, I hate this content. Like we have to understand the content from their demographic. So
just like they show understanding to the girls on their show.
Oh. Well,
I mean, can't we just kick them out? Give them a taste of their own medicine?
Yeah, get out. You're useless. You have no value, no inherent value.
You're old. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so I'm very thankful that you I love when you bring up some of the topics that have gone through the studio and then just talk about them in your own perspective because then I get a better perspective. I'm almost building my own knowledge base. Like I have a set of podcasts that I don't listen to, but I hear whispers of. Because I mean, we have over 65 podcasts here. There's no way I can listen to any of them, really. So I love hearing just like whispers of the engineers. They're like, "Oh, did you hear what happened on this podcast?" Or like, they're talking about this, and I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then I just build this like cloud of knowledge of just know not to trust anyone too intensely. Because if we just had red pill people here, or manosphere people here, then we would start to think like them, and that wouldn't. It's not necessarily because we believe; it's just we just have no other perspectives.
Well, it creates when you have an echo chamber and you don't have anything to compare it to, like your brain just kind of assumes that it's right, and then they speak with such conviction, right? That it makes it hard to challenge. But when you have to have like a knowledge or foundation, their theories are pretty easy to poke holes into.
Definitely.
You know?
I mean, I read Rollo Tomasse's Rational Male book, which is
I started it and I could not finish it.
I mean, I didn't read it. I listened to it, and it's definitely it's just a classic where it's like they get you with like just obvious things, and then they start adding stuff that's just like I would have never believed in unless.
Do you want to know something wild that he had on there about his list of a high value male?
Sure.
That you should get a vasectomy.
What?
That was one of the things on there, and
what?
He's got some wacky stuff on. This is when I say they give you some truths and then they just get wild with it. Having a vasectomy was one of the criteria on there for being like a high value male, and then somebody challenged him on it, on what a high value male was, and used his own words against him, and he was like he was just kind of fumbling around, couldn't really like come to any kind of conclusion of how he would define a high value male.
I wonder if you like fed like an AI or like ChatGPT all of their content and then just asked it to like say something, it would contradict, the AI would contradict itself because it was trained on contradictive material. And it would be very interesting well, eventually we're not going to read anything. We're just going to be summarizing everything. There'll be like a lot of raw content.
That kind of makes me sad.
Well, the art of consuming will change.
Yeah, I guess from that perspective. But I feel like we've kind of lost the art of communication.
I think the art of communication has changed. And I think that some people like our kids, like our generations of kids will not have that feeling.
Well, I feel like there's a level to this though where they're going to need to, like, personal relationships, personal development, those kinds of things, people skills. Like a
Hmm.
computer can't teach you that kind of
No.
stuff. Like you can only learn that stuff in vivo in life. That I feel like is really lacking. I feel like our ability to connect with each other on a human level is drastically decreasing.
Yeah, I mean, you see it already. Like even my little cousin wants to spend money online like it's his own. Like
Mm.
he was grounded and could only play educational games. And he's like, Travis, can you Apple Pay me money so I can buy a new race car on this like typing game where it's a typing game, but they let you do microtransactions for race cars. Like
Okay.
I don't even know what it is. And I'm like, like, why you want to put $10 into this app? Like his understanding of value has changed completely from when I was a kid. And he's only 10 years younger, 15, 12, how old am I? 15 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's shocking that that's going to be the next generation. But like humans have this innate desire to adapt. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that although it might change and be worse, we will still survive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we wouldn't. It would just gonna.
I think we'll survive. I think we'll survive, and I think we'll adapt to whatever that new form of communication is. It just kind of makes me sad because I feel like there's, so much distance between people now that it's just like, like having relationships is a building block. It's essential for anything. It's essential for work. It's essential for your own
Mhm.
personal mental health, like your emotional well-being is our sense of belonging and our ability to connect with each other. Like, I mean, when we don't do that, we're just all going to turn into a bunch of incels.
Yeah, it's obviously already happening. I think that's why the red pill community is so popular. It's not because the red pill community is right and people
Yeah.
are realizing that. I think it's just because there's this growing number of l- non-confident people, like both women and men, but mostly men, because men are like to get attention as a man in general, it's just harder. And then whenever you don't have the people skills to get the proper attention, to get your first girlfriend, to have those like core memory or those like stepping stones in your life to
Mm-hmm.
become a quote unquote man, it's gone. So then there's people who are advocates. They're like, I will turn you around. It's like, why there's so many drug users who end up turning to God or the church. It's
Yeah.
because the church is there for them. And they're like, well, I'll help you. And that's what the red pill is for.
I don't really feel like I call BS on that. I don't really feel like they're there to help. I feel like they're there to capitalize on a vulnerability for their own personal
Oh,
gain.
yes. Just
Like
like the churches,
under the
too.
guy, well,
I think churches take an inherent thing, spirituality, that humans have always had. And
mhm.
you can tell because across all cultures, there's spirituality. And whether it's a Jesus type or Buddha or there's multiple gods, it's always existed. Churches themselves, like the actual church, needs to make money. And they're capitalizing off of people's fear. And now red pill community is capitalizing off of young men's fear of never getting laid or never
I
having a
guess
relationship.
I'm not going to completely disagree with you on that because I can see some truth to that for sure, where there are people in positions of power, the abuse of power, church included, where they will do things like that and capitalize on vulnerabilities. However, I think the intent is different. I think there's more like I think with church and stuff like that, there's a greater purpose beyond that. And Red Pill will say that. They will say that there's a greater purpose, but really, I don't feel like they actually even believe that. I think that this was a group of dudes that got together and they're angry and they're upset and they created like an online, this is how Red Pill started. They created an online chat forum where they're like, I hate her, da 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 da. And then it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And then they now have a space where people have been rejected and no judgment to them, but there's a space now for that. And they're like, hey, we can make some money off of this. Let's sell them a program. Have you ever looked at their programs
No,
that they
it's
sell?
usually it's way too expensive, and it's like if
It's
we're gonna teach you how
silly.
to redesign your Instagram and make you feel better about yourself. I'm
Oh
like,
my God. Like some of this it's hilarious to me. I'm like, how is this like you're paying money to have somebody tell you this? They're like, and you know what's so funny is now, they say like I've heard Red Pill say that they'll go on these platforms and they can tell like, girls that are out there on standard pay, the rich dude like paying for or whatever.
right?
I could do the same thing with theirs, man. I could do the same. I could find a Red Pill Instagram like that because it's always a dude in front of a car with a group of girls because it gives him, clout and social proof. And I'm just like, okay, like you're following the blueprint and that looks desperate and needy as fuck.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's Yeah, there will be a point where Instagram is figured out. Well, I think that's actually since the algorithm it changes so often. I think people are always figuring it out. Um, Instagram's interesting because like even no matter how much we want to avoid to be the person, take the high road of being like I like to be a personable person, and I like to meet people and have coffee and go to events. You're still worried about when people Google your name what they find, and that's
Yeah.
your Instagram or your Twitter or any of your other online platforms, and it's all just showboating. It's like a online resume, but it's an online social resume, which for the only way that existed in the past is if you ask somebody, "Hey, have you heard of Travis? Like, is he good?" And they're like, "Oh no, you don't want to hang out with Travis because of blank or whatever." But now it's like you go to their Instagram, you see that all their posts are about them smoking weed. You're like, okay, you get it.
Yeah.
Like no hate, but you understand. But now they think they want the attention that with all those girls and brings, and they realize that that's just like a magnet for fake people.
I love that you said that because I completely agree. Like I think that I think what they're creating is going to implode, and I'll tell you why. Because they talk about women being here's a really simple example of this. They talk about women being hypergamous, right? Which is dating across, like her equal or up. Right. But yet you're preaching for men to basically lead with their money, get girls and, build your muscles and whatever. Nothing like no intrinsic work or being a quality person. It's just what you can have and how you can move up the ranks so that you get a high value young woman. Right. What do you think you're actually attracting? You're probably attracting a woman that wants you for your clout and your money and your status. And then and then she's with you not because she loves you, she's with you because of what you have to offer. Well, yeah, that's going to be a hypergamous woman because you're not trying to attract a quality woman. So in theory, yeah, it proves their point. But that's what happens when you take love out of the mix.
Right. I think you drop any male or any group of people and just put them in like Midwest farming town with like 400 people. There's no such thing. There is hypergamy, and it is like a sexual like kind of like battleground a little bit. But ultimately, like if you're not going to move away, like it's just you settle down, or the idea of love is different. Like because then no one's preaching to you about how love should be. You just see it. Then you just absorb that. Like, but in LA, where a lot of these people are from, that doesn't exist. It's constantly hypergamous. So it's like, I don't blame them for coming to those conclusions if you're from New York or from LA or you're from Miami. It's like, that is what it is because everyone moves there for quote unquote opportunity.
It's not that women aren't hypergamous, but are you leading with that? Are you trying to attract love? Or are you trying to just get girls and have as much sex as you can?
It's always that. It's that. I mean,
well, guess what, guys? You reap what you sow.
Yeah,
okay?
no,
you reap what you sow. If that's what you're about, then you're gonna get a gold digger, and you're gonna get a woman that's hypergamous.
Sure.
But when you work on those other those intrinsic things, when you're a person of quality, when you're not trying to use her right for her beauty, her money, her sex, because that's use too, right? When you're not trying to use her, you'll attract a girl that likes you for you. And that's the trade. Does hypergamy exist? Yeah, it does. But what's your role in that?
We want the best of everything. That's an intrinsic human.
Sorry.
It's an intrinsic human trait to always want the best of something, right? And then it's an intrinsic trait to be jealous or envious as well. So of course you're going to be like, oh, there's always a prettier or a hotter or a younger or a whatever version of whatever. And, if we're told like that is what we should be striving for, then that's what we are told. Like we have too much access to parts of humanity that we didn't have access to. Like we could, back in the day, we could only have sex in a 20-mile radius and that was your life. Now that you have the internet, you can see every position that every woman has ever done in the Kama Sutra. You can see every range of every body type of every person. And naturally, you're going to want the best or want what's attractive to you. But what's being told to you ultimately is like what we see on the movies, or what you see around you, which around you is the internet, which is everything. So, of course, you're never, ever going to settle for anything less than the best, and if you do, then you're worse for it. And that's not true. I think some people grow up and mature after they kind of have their freelance fucking, where they just go around and then they're like, okay, obviously I'm not fulfilled and I'm still depressed. Let's work something else out.
Yeah, this didn't make me happy. I like that you actually added that because I think it gives some balance to hypergamy and kind of normalizes it a little bit because we do, like, who wouldn't want the best? Like, who wouldn't want the best? Like, do you want to date something that, like, do you want to, like, that's what we call settling, right? Like, I'm not happy with this, but I'm going to settle because I don't think that I can get better. And I wouldn't say that that's a healthy option either.
No.
And men are also, I guess, in a sense, hypergamous. We're just valuing different things. Their hypergamy would be, well, red pill hypergamy.
Yeah.
It's not all men, it's just red pill men. Would be like the youngest girl, the girl that is most compliant and obedient,
Right.
and will have sex with him whenever he wants.
My value in women has changed a lot as I went through high school and then like college and then after college and then starting the studio. Like what I value, I obviously value attractive women, like in terms of like finding a mate, like, but ultimately it's just about whether or not they can help me achieve my goals, and maybe their goals can be achieved in that too, right? Like you, because of self-preservation, everyone is always selfish. So you're going to try to find someone that fits in. And maybe in the beginning when you're going through puberty, you just want to, anything with a hole in it, you just want to, fuck or something. But when you get older, it's like, the value of that decreases, and the value of like, okay, I need to buy land, or I need a car, or I need to work more, or you found a passion, like you just found a passion and now you need to focus on that. And then you realize that women are a distraction, right? But some people don't learn those lessons because they're too sheltered as a kid, or they're not given those opportunities to learn them earlier. I think that the new 15-year-old is a 25-year-old. The new 25-year-old is a 35-year-old. And we have seen our lives like extend because of medicine and stuff, but I genuinely think we don't have a coming to age until mid to late 20s anymore.
I don't think so either. I think it's incredibly like even our brain development, we're not fully formed just neurologically until we're 25. Like our frontal lobe, like where your reason and your judgment is not even all there until 25.
I think there's and this is not backed by science. I'm not a scientist and I'm just speaking out of my butt right now, but like I genuinely feel like there's certain life things that need to happen. Like you need to be dumped before you finish maturing. Like you have to.
I 100% agree with you on that. Like, the high school sweethearts and stuff like that, like that's a beautiful story, but I'm like, oh, but your character and your personal development and your ability to cope and go through pain, finding out what you really want, like those things, like that, like strength really only comes in like the gutter. Like it only comes when there's really like sorrow. Like strength comes when there's something to overcome.
Right.
And that's the hard part about it. Like you don't get strong by sitting on the couch, right? You have to tear your muscles down. You have to rebuild them. Like you have to break before you can build.
Correct. And I think a lot of young people, and I can only speak for young men because I really don't know what it's like to be a young woman in this world. But is like they're not being like they're not crashing their first car. They're not cheating or getting cheated on, right? Like all these little things that define your character. Like, are you a cheater? Are you a douchebag? Are you are you a handyman? Or are you a person who runs to someone else for help? Like people aren't actually getting exposed to those choices until like the society expects so much of them, and then they get overwhelmed and like they don't know how to handle their anxiety, right? Like that doesn't happen anymore. There's no coming of age. There's like that's being lost in school. Like now there's so much more control. Like the parents have less custody of their children than ever. Like you can't, like the whole idea of like getting smacked by your father for having bad grades. Like could be very abusive.
Could be
but
child abuse as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But like there's something being said when that happens. And I wasn't beaten as a kid, but my mom had a paddle, and that just showed me that she was in control and that I should trust her, and that I should like that. It wasn't about her hurting me. It was about, you need to listen to me or else you're going to get hurt.
Look, as with anything, like there can be an abuse of power, but I do believe in discipline as an important part of like when you're young. Like try to do that shit when you're older and try to like instill discipline in a teen, like, and you haven't done that as in the youth. Like you've really changed them neurologically, and there's way more resistance. Like you want to avoid confrontation at all cost, I think, but if you're going to have one, you better win.
Yeah.
You better win, like when they're kids, and that doesn't mean that you lose yourself in that, but you have to be a force of stability for children, and kids need to know that they can predict the outcome. That means if I say clean your room and you don't, they know exactly what's going to happen. Like there's a consequence
And then
for
they
that.
learn why later in life, why you even had that mentality. It wasn't that you were neurotic about a clean home. It's that clean homes don't breed disease.
Yeah.
Literally breed disease. Like that's like I'm gonna beat your ass if you don't clean your room. It's like you go to some of these like, hoarder apartments like that they're sick all the time. That's
Have you ever
why.
been in a hoarder apartment?
Yeah, I like had a
Did you date a hoarder?
I didn't date them. I found them on Tinder and
What happened? No, I'm so curious.
I would walk in and there was like pee pads everywhere.
Pee pads.
And there was like they had like way too many dogs and like, I thought they were
Were the pee pads
used
for her?
Oh no, it was for her
Okay,
dogs. But like like there would be poop and pee pads all over the place. There was like wrappers and stuff like that. Like I picked up a gallon of water and it was like sticky stuff on the bottom of it. I have no idea. It's gross. And I just I'm like, no wonder you're sick all the time. Like I know you're trying to do good things for dogs, but like, think about yourself, But I forgot where the train of thought was. But anyways,
we were talking about children and discipline, and it's not about cleaning your room. It's about sanitary, clean
right.
space.
So
kind of
yeah,
stuff.
there's things that your parents that know that they need to instill in their kids, and it's always about the outcome because you can't tell a small toddler why they shouldn't touch a stove. You slap their hand, you say no, and they cry. Okay, that's fine. But then eventually they're going to touch the stove and be burnt and then realize why you slapped their hand to begin with. Like those two things have to happen, but the slapping of the hand is not happening for a lot of little things. Like the whole idea of the dad holding a gun when the boyfriend comes over, that's the slapping of the hand. Like treat my daughter with respect. Obviously that's super weird to do. If you still if you're doing that, don't do that. But like
it's a metaphor, guys.
I mean, it wasn't at one point, obviously,
Yeah, well.
but that's the father protecting or showing that he's wise, right? He knows something you don't know, and there's authority there. And then it's left up to the life experience to find the reasons. It's like, oh, that's why they yelled at me that one time, and it's. A lot of times with behavior stuff, it's because parents are like, hey, you don't say bad words. And it's like, so you don't go into, your first interview and then drop an F-bomb and then you don't get the interview. Like that's good knowledge to have. And, parents aren't taking custody of their kids anymore. The government or institutions want more control of their kids. Like it was very obvious during, 2020 that, some people wanted to lose control because they had too much anxiety. And then there's some people who wanted to take control. And both of those polarizing things just showed that there's a disparaging idea when it comes to raising kids and the ideas. And, it's all virtue signaling, but none of it's in reality how life is. And I think when people experience life, it's always better, even if it's terrible. Even if your life is terrible, you're rock bottom, that's the only way you learn.
I agree. And it's the only way to really develop any kind of resilience, which you have to have in life. Like if it doesn't hit you at home when you're younger, you're going to get hit with something at some point in your life, whether it's health, whether it's a relationship, whether it's losing somebody that you love. And those small cuts that happen when you're younger are the foundation and the building blocks you need to develop bigger issues when you're older.
100%.
I was actually really happy. I actually kind of used this for myself to help me cope through some difficult things. I was I learned how to be alone very early on. And I was I know how to get through this point in my life now. I'm not scared of being by myself anymore. And I know that at some point in life, everybody's going to end up alone at some point, whether that's an old age, losing a partner, breakups, whatever. And that's a really, really powerful time that you have to have a really good relationship with yourself. Otherwise, your brain is going to be your worst enemy.
That's true. I see so many people suffer from anxiety, and I just can't help but to not understand because I have anxiety about things, but I don't have anxiety.
Well, I guess there's degrees of anxiety. There's a degree of anxiety that I would say is within a normal range, and then there's anxiety that's debilitating and paralyzing.
Right. And I feel like there's a lot more people that just don't trust themselves. I know if I truly hit rock bottom and I had to live on the street or whatever, I feel like I could, not that maybe I don't bounce back, but I know I could survive. I have that doesn't bother me because I know that I'm always making the choice I'd make in this moment because I'm confident in every choice I make. It might not be the right one, but I know it's the one that'll make me feel better.
What you're confident in is your ability to manage it and get through it.
True.
Your confidence is in you, not in your environment, and that's probably why you're not anxious. Anxiety is always a perceived threat, not an actual one.
Yeah, I went to REBT therapy for a while, and it was just because my life was very anxious, and it was just I was surrounding myself with a lot of anxious people, and I didn't realize how much that affected me.
That energy.
It was my girlfriend, it was all my peers in college, it was my bosses at the time, like just constantly, oh no, we're about to die, or oh no, we're about to lose money, or oh no, we're about to break up, or oh no, we're like, oh my God, I have so much, like it was just so much negativity. And then I realized that once I quit my job, I dumped my girlfriend, and I graduated college, my life was 1,000 times better. And it was just my environment. Then I realized how much like my environment affected me. Like even here at the studio, we don't have like a policy that says like on a plaque that says like good thoughts only, but like everyone needs to vent. But then there's an obvious moment where venting becomes to complaining, and then that's just degradation. Like that's just ruining your mentality. Like if somebody comes in here with an attitude, you have 30 minutes to complain to us, and then you're done.
Is that like a rule that you guys have?
It's not
here?
a rule, but it's just we kind of self-check each other. Like we're very tribal here in the way of like, you good?
I absolutely love that because I get a lot of shit for this when I do therapy with people because I have the same mentality. Because there's a big difference. Like there's actually been a lot of research that shows that venting doesn't help your mental health.
Interesting.
What I think venting does is it creates rumination, and rumination just reinforces those neurological pathways and just strengthens your attachment to that negative emotion. And people are addicted to negative emotions. So what I like to do is actually interrupt it and shift somebody's perspective. And I do that in all kinds of fun ways. So book a session with me if you want, but at your own risk.
I might.
But yeah, so like, I do a lot of stuff like that, but I don't think that it's good to just stay in a negative headspace or I've got to get stuff off my chest. Okay, well, there's levels to that. Yes, it's good to get stuff off your chest, but are you stuck in it?
Yeah.
Are you mentally rehearsing it? Are you attaching to it? Are you not willing to let it go? Like, there's a big difference, again, between getting something off your chest and then rumination.
I have to constantly ask my girlfriend, do you want me to help you or do you want me to listen? Because those two answers, I want you to listen or I want you to help me, is like, because I'm in constant.
What does she usually say?
Oh, listen, she never wants me to help because a lot of times it's like something at work and I'm not there to like be that person, like to like respond to that person she's having a problem with. I'm like, if it was me, I'd do this, but it's always easier said than done, and I'm not her. So, but a lot of times when I like, especially in the early of our relationship, I would be like, oh yeah, super easy. You're gonna go call him. You're gonna call him, text him right now. I'm like, no, text him right now. Like go. And she's like, she's like getting emotional. I'm like, why are you getting emotional? We're trying to solve this. And I realized I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what am I doing wrong? And the answer was I'm not supposed to be talking. I'm supposed to be listening. And that's the venting period. But then eventually, like, I have to like, so what do you think you should do? And then I just am the bouncing board for her to come to her own conclusion. It's like, what makes you feel better? Or here's some other perspectives. But generally, I just am listening. And I've had a lot of different types of girlfriends, a lot of different types. Well, I mean, I guess it's just I've grown up, right? I had an 18-year-old girlfriend, and then I had a 22-year-old girlfriend. Now I have a 25-year-old girlfriend. And I was at different stages of my development, and so were they. So I guess to say that I dated different girls is weird, but maybe people don't know. People don't know what they're doing. And all I know is when they have anxiety about it, they always make the wrong choices. You need a clear head to make a choice. And I always want to give that to people, but it's hard for people to hear advice and not take it at like personal, like they're making the wrong choices.
I think a lot of people personalize things, and I really try. I know that I personally try to challenge myself not to do that, but I always consider the source. I do two things. I try not to take things personal, but I'm also like, I don't just accept what people say either. Some people try to give you feedback, and it's really just a criticism. It's not an actual feedback.
I love feedback and criticism. It's like it's what built the studio. Like it's what builds every single day. And having a healthy battleground, if you will, of discourse about things is really good, and to not feel personally attached. It's a practice, and a lot of people aren't practiced that way because they're also not social. So they don't. And anytime they engage in discourse, it's over a screen, so you feel like you can go harder
Yeah.
than you should.
There's that anonymity there,
Yeah,
kind of.
like I feel like you should be afraid to getting punched in the face for saying something wrong. But I would love to be punched in the face for something wrong that I truly believe in. I feel like I would die for my family, like literally die for my family or my girlfriend or whatever. I feel like I should die for my own like opinions too. Like I think everyone should, but it should be open to having like a healthy debate. And when everyone likes to say like, "Oh, I love debating," they just love arguing. That's not debating.
I think the key word there is healthy, right? Because like debate isn't always healthy. Sometimes these debates can get like they become personal attacks, and it's no longer a debate. In fact, like that's pretty much what I see in my comment section. It's just that nobody's even saying anything. They're just like talking shit, you know.
What's the most triggering debate in your comment sections? Like, what's the one topic that always gets them going?
Well, if I say anything about red pill, like, so if that's what women wear, I did the video on narcissists, right? That got a lot of like, my plastic surgery video, that one was popping.
What was your take? Briefly.
So it's pretty loaded, but I had a pretty, I'm pro plastic surgery. Okay. And I had some pretty strong opinions on why. Now, I tried to create some balance around that, but one of the biggest criticisms I think I got was, well, you're insecure and you don't like yourself if you have plastic surgery. And I was like, nope, that's not it, not even close. And so my counters to that was, well, why do you have the haircut that you have?
Yeah.
Like, why did you pick those color glasses, Travis?
Yeah, because they're purple.
I mean, did you think that it made you look good? Well, you're a narcissist. Like, I mean, it's kind of this,
right.
You know, it's a circular logic that I kind of poke holes in. And it's like, can people that have plastic surgery be insecure? Yes. But I also think that it can help with people's confidence. And look, there are two sides to the coin. There's positives and negatives. And I was kind of I was giving some warnings, but mainly like highlighting, the positives and saying like, look, I know a lot of women that are also in their natural beauty and they don't like themselves either.
Right.
So it's just like, and look, if everything that women are doing is to impress men, according to Red Pill, well, then everything they're doing is to impress us. So why are we talking about it if we're all doing the same thing?
That's a great point. I think people just want to fit in. And I think the more people that get plastic surgery, then there's more people that will get it. And I don't think that they're insecure. I just think they just want to look like the rest of the people.
Sometimes somebody might not like an aspect of themselves that might create some insecurity. And sometimes if they fix that, it really does just solve the problem, and it's not that deep.
People aren't surviving anymore. They're bored. Like there's also too many. Like you eat every day. You usually have a heating and cooling. You have a car. Most people have that. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't. But like, there's the people that are surviving don't concern themselves with whether or not their lipstick is on point or their eyebrows. They're like, will I eat? Obviously, that's a better thing to worry about. But they don't. People on the internet don't think like these are all just hobbies. Like someone getting plastic surgery is just an expensive permanent hobby. Like. That's it. Same thing with the tattoo, right? Or, body modifications or even transgenderism, like whatever. Who cares? Like if there's somebody who would rather get plastic surgery than feed their kid, then they have a problem. Right.
Yeah.
But most of us are just bored as hell and they saw a cool TikTok and they were influenced and they want to do it. And that should be reason enough to do something.
Most people actually get plastic surgery because they're in distress. They're actually like and there was a study that I did when I was looking at this video, and you
could say the same thing about people who buy a boat.
I could. Well, I don't think the mental distress would necessarily like match the psychological stress that the people were experiencing. Like, I mean, I think it would be stress, but again, is it psychological distress? Does it cause an impairment? Is it affecting their ability to like? These are the things we kind of like look for. Buying a boat wouldn't really match that kind of criteria.
I feel like it's just something like someone would do when they shouldn't, but they think it's going to fill something and then they're stuck with it.
Well, you would think that. And that absolutely happens. It absolutely happens. But research shows, and I'll have to find the studies because I looked them up when I was like doing this episode. Research shows that most people just get one surgery and they're done.
Yeah, they got their fix.
They're like, I feel better.
Interesting.
And like look at people. Most surgeries too are like reconstructive in a sense.
Right.
I gave the example of somebody when I did this. The whole thing came up because I was on a podcast where these two guys were kind of like coming at me for plastic surgery, right? And so I was
Okay.
like dueling with them a little bit, and I was like, and I said that I think that plastic surgery can heal you. It was a pretty controversial statement that I made. And
Bold.
yeah, bold, but I believe in it and I
Okay.
stand by it to this day. I think it can under the right context. And that's why I was making this video to expand on that point. And they didn't really agree with me on that. So I gave the example of this. Well, what about a burn victim?
Definitely. Yeah, that's
Like, what about a burn victim? Like that would be a reconstructive surgery that would probably make them feel a lot better about their physical appearance.
or
Now,
someone who breaks their nose.
now, by their own logic, or fixes their teeth, right? Or gets a hair transplant, okay? Now, by their own logic, they would say, well, would you call that burn victim insecure? Well, you know what? They probably are, but we're somehow
That's okay. That's an okay insecurity.
somehow
you
that
know?
insecurity is okay. And to be quite honest, everybody has insecurities, okay? But there's again levels to this, and we can't just use blanket statements. And I think you can be insecure and you can manage that in a way that's healthy and doesn't hurt other people. And then I think you could be insecure and that can come across as incredibly controlling and obsessive and can be very problematic in relationships.
I think we should. I mean, you've already made an episode on this, but why do you think that prosthetics for veterans who've lost a limb or just people who've had lost limbs, why do they look like limbs? I feel like if I lost an arm, I would want a device that's better than my arm, right?
That's actually a really
So
good point.
To kind of go deep into this, it's like it looks like an arm because there's this innate human desire to be unnoticed or normal at the very least. We want to be unique and normal.
It's
but
belonging. It's what the need is it Maslow's hierarchy of needs, belonging. That's our basic human need. Like when we belong to the pack, right? It actually increases our here's the psychology behind that, okay?
Yeah.
When we belong to the pack, it increases our odds of surviving. When we're
100%.
different, when we stand out, iced out.
That's one of the things about the red pill I agree with is they do say that
I know. I actually
you gotta
agree with
fit
them
in.
too.
You gotta be of the higher
Yeah.
class, or else you're gonna get banished out of the tribe and then die in the forest or whatever. But everyone, I feel like the increase of we don't shame the veteran who gets a prosthetic on their face because it makes them empowered and normal
Right,
or
but
whatever.
because-
But we do shame a woman for getting it. They're the same reasons. Except for the veteran wants to look normal in society, and the lady perhaps is doom scrolling on Instagram every day, and all she's being fed is these supermodels who have this work already, which they might have done their work because they also are on TikTok swiping up and saw other supermodels. So it's the same concept. You're just trying to fit in with a crowd that you're not a part of. You might live in the Midwest, in a town of 500 people, but all your TikTok is people from LA who have plastic surgery. So
Yeah.
naturally, this woman who's beautiful by their standards, right? Their local standards are going to do something that nobody's going to understand. They're like, oh, you're insecure. It's no, you're just trying to fit in with a group of people that don't influence your life truly. But they do because of the internet now.
I just don't think that there needs to be, I think that there's a lot of judgment. I was kind of highlighting a fallacy here, and that was that it's kind of one-sided. Like we give more grace to men when they want to make physical improvements. Like I don't hear, any talk on red pill platforms about a man getting a hair transplant, but if she's had plastic surgery, she's an HO3.
HO3.
Okay? She's an HO3. Yeah, I'm learning the terminology apparently. They're encouraging men to change their bodies actually by going and getting fit in the gym, right? Building their muscles, right? But again, that counter isn't true for a woman. If she's too fit, she's too masculine, and now she's in her masculine energy. So shame on her.
Yeah, I
but
don't
if she's had
understand.
too much work, then she's conceited, narcissistic, and HO3. So they create these double binds psychologically, and double binds are actually really interesting. Fun fact, okay? Double binds are damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Okay.
And they used to think back in the day that that's what caused schizophrenia.
Oh, interesting.
That's how devastating it is psychologically, and I see that happen in the red pill community all the time.
Don't you think that young women, there should be an advocate, and it shouldn't be red pill, should not be red pill, but there should be an advocate for women to embrace motherhood, because there's a lot of people my age and younger who are ashamed of their motherhood or the ability to carry a child or even a human responsibility in general to carry on to the next generation. Like the United States is like Japan's already seen it. Like they're not replacing the old people anymore. There's way more old people than there are young people. Who's the advocate who's not trying to be a misogynist, but saying that, ladies, it's okay to like, you know, love your femininity and be like love to be a mother. It's okay. Like right now, like society currently is saying that unless you are what a traditional man was, then you are not a good woman either.
Well, I haven't. If that's happening, I haven't really. That didn't happen in my sphere of influence. Like if
you should look up the birth rates in America.
I know that
census data.
I know they're declining, but I don't know necessarily if I could say that that's because there's a shame or like a sway from that. It could be a woman exercising more birth control options. It could be a woman, and if that's the case, it's hard to pinpoint where that choice really starts, right?
Correct.
Like
it's not the men though. It's not the men, and I don't think there's many women who can balance the yes, go get yours, go do whatever you want, but also eventually you do have to like. There has to be a coming of age for this woman. Like I said, remember, like a lot of young, like back in the day, 13 years old, you were going to be pregnant, right? Because, you know, that's just what it was, right? And that age has kind of like climbed and kept climbing. And now it's getting to the point where it's like, keep climbing, you're going to start having autistic children and complications. And humans haven't evolved to where our society wants it to be, right? So there is a point where, you know, there, at least in the culture where it's just like you can have a job and you can have a baby. I feel like, you know, if I have a kid, I want my kid when they're not crying and pooping on themselves to be in my place of work. Like the idea of like you don't go to stores anymore and it's like the family that's there and like the kids running the register. Like that's not child labor. That's just existing. Like I grew up with my dad bringing me to the shop when he would work on cars and stuff like that. And he was a father and worked. And my mother was a mother and worked. But kids and young people feel like if they're a mother, they're worthless because they can't provide for themselves. And what's happening?
I know that does exist, but I also see so much of the opposite where you're shamed for not being a mom. You're shamed for not having children. I know that I've personally gotten a lot of that, or not being married or not being single. So the reverse is also true. I think it's really like you as a woman, I think you have to be really honest with yourself about what you want in your life. I used to work with a coworker, and this is to your point, and she was a therapist, and she was miserable doing it. Like she was getting, you know, not depressed, but she was really sad. And not that she didn't love her work, but she was like, she came into my office one day and she's like, Jamie, I want to be a mom. I don't want to work anymore. I want to raise a family, I want to have kids, and I want to focus on that. And I was like, well, then do it.
Yeah, just get pregnant, and then you will have to deal with it.
Then,
like,
you know, I'll call, you know, like I just, you know, and she wrestled with that though. She did. So I know that exists, and she wrestled with that. And look, there's so many dynamics to that. This is complex what you're bringing up, and I'm trying not to open up too many.
I don't see anyone talking about it. It's
a good conversation to have, and like I actually did have somebody on. You were producing that show.
Was I?
Yeah, it was. I almost didn't run the show. Do you remember who he was?
Oh yeah.
We kind of we talked about it. Kind of after the fact, where he was very much like anti-birth control and could not understand the idea of a woman working and thought that would never be something that a woman would want to do. And him and I really like battled on that one.
Women used to strap babies to their back while they, you know, gathered, right? Like that's motherhood.
Yeah.
There's no mother in history that didn't work while having a kid. Right? Like I don't understand like the idea that you can't find fulfillment as a woman and have a kid is just doesn't make any sense. I think the problem needs to be with, well, first of all, like the parents need to like, you know, share that it's like okay to have this and build infrastructure to support this. Like the reason why old people in America, for example, to kind of shift slightly, why they die so early and why people in other foreign countries live so long is because The Japanese will call it an ikigai, which is like a hobby or a purpose, a reason to live. In American society, once you hit a certain age, retirement age, you are useless. You are not allowed to go work. And if you are, you're burdening someone. And that's the mentality. So there's a mentality of like, okay, you're at a corporate job, you get maternity leave for 6 months or whatever. You're useless to the company in those 6 months. Oh, then you better get to work and you better be just as productive. But where's the daycare at Microsoft? Where's the daycare?
That's a great point.
Great point. Society needs to embrace motherhood, and then we will have more babies. It's just we don't support it. Like they want you to take your baby, put it in safe key. Then they go to school, and then they go to a babysitter, and then you got to pay someone to go raise your kid. Like that's not good. That is not good. No society has survived on other people raising their kid. I hope when I build Sticky Paws and I build whatever I'm building here, and then when we eventually get more female on staff and then they start having kids, like I want to accommodate that. Like I want my kid to exist in a tribe of people that, or in an environment where it, breeds good habits and good, community. Because that's where we're losing it. It's because, we want to just work. America is in the hustle mentality. Like the word hustle should just go away from American vernacular. It doesn't benefit anyone. Like, so that's the problem. If we want to reverse it, it's not the women not making the choice. It's the women just weighing their options. Like they look at their corporate job. They're like, dang, like if I have a kid, I'm gonna spend less nights sleeping.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to ask their mom to go raise the kid.
Well, and also like just surviving, right? Like, do they have somebody that can, like most incomes now require 2 incomes to survive, right?
Yep.
Which means they like, even if she wanted to stay home, does her income support her ability to do that? And those things all factor into what choice looks like for women in those things, like if you don't have viable options, it's not really a choice, it's survival.
And that most people put themselves in a survival situation because they also don't have an educated mindset that is of abundance. Because I mean, again, we have 3 meals a day, we have a car, we have a house, most of us, right? Like we're not in a survival situation. We should have this anxiety when we're in a survival situation. If you're living in the tunnels underneath the Vegas, you should have anxiety. But if you have anxiety because of the rice wasn't done all the way at home, then you need to reevaluate where your priorities are at, right? And it's just that's not fixable because like everything drives anxiety, like TikTok. Like I call it doom scrolling. Like the moment I like have a thought of that I'm scrolling up. And I really don't use TikTok, Instagram, Reels. I stay away from the swipe up algorithm. I stay away from algorithms. If I'm searching something, that's me controlling it. But if it's controlling me, then I just know for a fact it's not beneficial.
That's a good like rule of thumb. I definitely feel like social media is taking over, and I agree with the doom scrolling. Like I get way more anxious when I was on social media. I remember I was off of it for years. Like after I got divorced, I got off all social media platforms, and I didn't have it again until I think I got off it for about 3 years. I didn't, and what was the most surprising thing is I didn't miss it.
You don't. Well,
I didn't even miss it.
Because you probably Googled the things you wanted to figure out anyways.
I was just present. I was really present, and it helped me so much. And like I didn't want to see what anybody was saying about me or about my divorce or about I didn't want to see it. And you know what? I wasn't anxious.
Yeah. I just have a healthy. I think that there should be an accountability when it comes to social media. When you approach social media or the internet, you need to be looking for something. You almost have to have a flight plan before you enter the internet.
Okay.
You're like, okay, I'm going to open up Google and then I'm going to search up this term and I'm looking for this. Once you find it, you stop using it.
Yeah.
Like I love that. It's way better. Like I wish, like if I have a kid, I want to teach them how to use the internet and teach them how they could just be like, what's on your mind? Whales? Let's look up some whales, right? What's on your mind? You want to see the tallest mountain in the world? Let's figure it out. Yeah. But I don't think an algorithm should tell you facts. Like, I don't think an algorithm should tell you what you want because it's ultimately your primal instincts. You'll start to see a bunch of thoughts or whatever, on your screen, or you start to get some weird like alt left or alt right, you know? You start to get into weird sides of the internet that, you would have never thought about because that's not. And I think, parents these days don't, monitor that. I think it's like when computers first came out.
Well, I feel like the computer is the new babysitter.
Well, it's a new television set, actually.
Yeah.
Like my parents, was go outside, stop watching TV, and now it's like go outside, stop being on your phone, and then they are outside at the park on their phone swiping up, and it's just like,
I feel grateful to have grown up like because I was at the tail end of it, you know, like I still had like riding bikes in the alley, catching butterflies, like all those things, you know, and I was really grateful for this because I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. They were in love. And I got to see the foundation of a really healthy relationship from them where they would, like, they were in their 90s and they would still play hide and go seek.
That's crazy.
They were buddies.
I feel like my parents is a very strong definition of love.
You've kind of talked to, you have a very like strong family system. Right?
I think it's,
You're very close to your
I'm
family.
excited I want to raise the next generation. Like, I'm just like, I just have so many, I'm seeing so many people do it wrong. I'm seeing so many people having the wrong idea of like what they're trying to do as raising a kid. Like the kid will adapt. Like whatever situation you put them in, they will adapt. That's why like kids will often, or people when they grow up, they're like, I didn't realize I was poor growing up. That's because they had a great mother or a great father that just had like gave love to their kid. And it doesn't matter about your economic status. Obviously it does affect like resources and stuff, but ultimately like we have an inherent self-perseverance that people don't trust themselves to make it happen. They think that the moment that they don't have something just given to them, they're gonna die, and that's not true. Like you will survive. You will eat. Let's say if you're like on a boat and it's between you and them, and you're out of food. One of you are gonna die, and that person's gonna be eaten. Like you will be cannibal because of self-perseverance. But on a lesser extent, you will figure out the proper, the cheap way to buy food, or
what is that expression? Like necessity is like the mother of invention.
There
right?
it is.
Like,
yeah, and we no longer need anything and only want stuff, and it'll fold in itself until we need stuff. Like that's where the nuclear war will come from, and then we'll like reset. How are the pyramids built? And probably because they went through the same thing.
I would love to know how the pyramids were built. Like,
it was probably an advanced civilization that didn't have the same type of technology, but had really robust technology and huge communities of people.
Yeah, I wonder if the aliens did it.
The aliens. I'm really into Star Trek these days.
Have you ever watched Ancient Aliens?
I have, but I can't get over that guy with the spiky hair.
I know.
And and you think the red pill just throws BS out there? It's like they really are. It's a stretch on what they're trying to like.
It's fascinating to me because like they have hieroglyphs of aliens and like spaceships, and I'm like, where did that come from?
I mean,
and like
who knows?
how do you explain like what are they like the crop circles and things like that? Like how do you explain that?
People were much more bored back then.
I guess so, maybe
people don't like. There wasn't things better to do. There wasn't a TikTok.
But,
there doesn't exist.
Okay, have you heard about Stonehenge though? I'm really going off on a tangent now.
No.
Okay.
All right, I'm down for it. Let's go.
Maybe I should be on Bizarre Junkies for this. So they have Stonehenge, and they have two Stonehenges actually. Most people have only heard of one, but they have another one in like New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And if you draw like a parallel line through the center of one Stonehenge, it parallel intersects through the other Stonehenge. I'm like, aliens.
So like on the same latitude.
Like,
right?
I know that one is here. I don't know. I'm really bad
latitude, right? So it's on the same horizontal axis,
yes,
right?
It's like if I was to draw a line, and like here's the circle Stonehenge, here's the other circle Stonehenge. The line intersects directly through them, like that. Aliens.
I really think that people were bored back then, and they would be like,
but they couldn't call Fred and be like, Fred in New Hampshire, and be like, hey, we're doing this thing over here.
Yeah, like the star, people don't know how to use a compass or a map that isn't Google Maps or Apple Maps, but in Boy Scouts I learned, and it's surprisingly easy to use the stars to get very, very precise, a bit like locations, because all you got to know is that star has not moved in 100 million years. It will be in that same exact spot tomorrow, and you can do that. That's why like Stonehenge and like they would line them up, and like the pyramids of Giza line up with the sun setting.
Yeah.
It's because nothing has changed. Like maybe in another million years people are going to look at the pyramids and be like, what an idiot, they misaligned it, but like that's it's super easy to use that to find positions. I say super easy. It's not super easy, but you can be trained and apprenticed and grow up and then die at 40. But when you're 35, you built Stonehenge, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
After a 6-month journey on the roughest waters you've ever experienced.
I mean, but it's just fascinating to me because like, how do you even move those blocks? And then they like sand them down and they cut them down, and like not even water can get through the I mean, I don't know. That kind of stuff just fascinates me. I don't know. I kind of like the whole alien thing. We'll see.
I don't know. I'm watching Star Trek, and I just watched an episode where they are being observed silently because there's this thing called Prime Directive. If like the civilization has not achieved the ability to go deep space, then you're not allowed to contact them. And they were observing them silently through like an invisible whatever. And I feel like that's what's happening. Like we will never officially get in contact with aliens because they don't want us. We are murder apes currently, and we will kill everything we see because we don't understand. And they're waiting for us to mentally develop enough to say hello and have a good handshake without.
I feel like we're being
crazy.
groomed.
What do you think
I feel like we're being groomed. Okay, so this is gonna sound wild.
All right.
It has nothing to do with pink pill, but
this is true Matrix.
Get
red
ready.
pill, like,
Get ready for the inside of my brain. Okay, so this is gonna sound really weird, but when I was a child and I watched the movie Independence Day, I was like, I didn't have the terminology for it at the time, but I was like, they're preparing us. I was like, I feel like people will use movies because like. We do this I see it all the time. I used to work with sex offenders, you know. I would see grooming all the time. I look at Red Pill, I see grooming, like, you know. Like, and I was like, I feel like this is getting somebody familiar with this concept of somebody coming here and either being unfriendly or friendly as a way to push a narrative and agenda that serves government.
Okay.
Now, I'm not too researched on ancient aliens, and Austin can probably help me out more
Bizarre
with
Junkies.
this. Yeah, Bizarre Junkies.
Junkies.
Yes. Please go check them out, follow them. But yeah, I was just like, I think that this is just, I thought the same thing with COVID too. I really did. I was like, this is a test to see how everybody responds and to see how controllable somebody is.
I actually agree with that.
I felt the same way. I was like, how compliant and complicit are people going to be? And this was just the test. And I had that immediate gut instinct. And I was like, there's something much bigger coming down the tubes. And I don't want to scare people because I believe that we'll survive and thrive and everything will be fine and we'll find a way. Okay. And we do not respond in fear, okay? But it is important to be informed, and it is important to see patterns, and it is important to point out manipulations, okay?
Right.
So that you can make an informed decision. And I was like, it's too textbook to me. It's too textbook. Like seeing this kind of stuff on a daily basis and seeing the news, seeing the propaganda.
What are we being, we're being groomed to follow instructions?
No, what I thought it was, number one, it was I need to see how people are going to respond, and I'm going to check where the fallacies are. I'm going to check where we need to make, like, I'm going to put a mandate on saying, hey, nobody can leave their house. Will people rebel or will they follow? I'm going to say you need to now wear a mask. Will they rebel? Will they follow? Like, what kind of contingencies can I put? What are the punishments if they don't? They're figuring all that stuff out. They're saying, now you need to get a this. Now you need to get a this. Now you need to take the shot.
You think it's aliens doing this?
I don't think that's aliens. I think that I just switched from that example because I was using grooming.
Right. Oh, okay.
I thought the media or the government was possibly using media.
Absolutely. In that context, I thought you were going to go down an alien rabbit hole. But
no.
1,000%. That is exactly what's happening. And it's shocking how many friends I could have lost, but because I just didn't care, I didn't even care to lose them as a friend. But how many people like who were on one side of the coin when it's literally a fact now that the conspiracy at the time was the truth, and how little reaction people have. I think that was also a litmus test for that.
What was the conspiracy? What was
just like whether or not it was like, COVID was created in a lab was actually.
Do they have proof that it was?
They do.
Okay.
They have like records that it was actually manufactured. Well, not necessarily to be released, right? But it happened. It got released accidentally. Whether it was true or not, like whether it was intentional or not, is not provable. But stuff like that happened. Where the intentional lying of certain facts about medicine from the CDC was real. Like now they're going back on saying, hey guys, vaccines can be very dangerous. And you're like, well, then why were you forcing it on us, right? The type of vaccine, the mRNA vaccine, had an emergency release, right? Because at first it was just a normal vaccine, Johnson & Johnson. That got taken away because it was giving people heart attacks or blood clots or whatever.
Yeah.
But then this new fancy vaccine type thing, which is not a vaccine, it's like a data rewriter, was not approved by the federal government for ever because it was unsafe. Like it could literally destroy your body. Like if it targets your heart, it will bruise your heart and you could die.
Wow.
But it's usually that's why they inject it in a muscle, because then it damages your muscle and then it's sore and then you're fine. But anyways, it's proven that like they known for a fact that it was more dangerous than a standard vaccine. And then they released it just because they wanted to. Was it profit? Was it not? But all these are true. But at the time, the people that were saying this, the doctors were disbarred, the lawyers the lawyers were disbarred, the doctors were taking their practices away. And it's like, oh, okay, so that just gave more validity to the conspiracy theorists. Like maybe the earth is flat. I doubt it is. But like it's crazy. Like
it's it was a way to like I felt like this was a test to control the masses.
It worked.
It worked. It worked, and it was amazing how many people like followed it and put up very little resistance to such control. It's crazy to me how just so few can control so many.
Yeah, but what's crazy about the United States is that there's whole states that didn't follow like mandates from the federal government. And the federal government never actually made anything a law. It was all just mandates. So it was like, how willing are the states
That's interesting.
to follow policy, not law? Because if they made it a law, it'd be non-constitutional.
It felt like law. I didn't know that.
Nothing was actually a law. You could not be jailed, you could not be persecuted and go to trial for not wearing a mask. However, you could be denied access to a private thing, right?
I felt like one of the biggest things that was under attack that, again, was very concerning to me was freedom.
No, it was freedom because people took their freedom for granted because they assumed that they had less than they did. Because whenever then the government said wear a mask, they were like, okay, I wear a mask. They're beating protesters. Oh, okay, let's put that mask on. But it was never a law. But nobody ever got in trouble for enforcing it like a law. Like, it's crazy you couldn't be outside and you were going to get a ticket for being outside. Like, that is really crazy. And that is never a law. And those people, you could fight the ticket and you'd probably just be thrown away.
So grooming guys.
Don't groom.
Don't groom. Don't groom anybody.
Don't groom. Don't groom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I've been watching too much Joe Rogan. I think I need to dial back.
I heard he's making like a major shift, like kind of.
No, yeah.
He had like some church people on. I think so. Or he's been having more like spiritual people on, and he's been like questioning if hell is real and heaven is real and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, he's getting more. I think he's just getting older.
I think he's
developing.
Maybe. I think he's clearly got some fear there around that area.
I think COVID scared him. He moved his entire company and industry to Texas because Yeah. I mean, from LA during 2021, moved it to Texas, who had laxer laws, or in reality just didn't enforce the non-laws. And he was just like, that shocked him. And then before, he was like a left person who was like pro a lot of things, pro like, welfare, pro this, pro that. And he still is, but he's just like, oh God, like he's now more centrist than he was ever because the left went further left, right? Or whatever. And that scared him. And now his narrative has changed. Like, conservatives used to hate him. Now the conservatives love him because he's more centrist.
Yeah.
And now the liberals hate him when the liberals loved him. And it's just very interesting. And I don't know who these people are that are on the super ends, but I don't think many people exist out there. They're really loud and use, social media to platform themselves and kind of get it out. But
yeah, I don't know Joe Rogan too well, but I know he's like pretty like out there and pretty like opinionated. I did see his interview with Dr. David Buss because you sent it to me actually.
Yeah.
And I did watch that and that was interesting.
Yeah, I think he just lets people talk and then just, I don't think you can ever tell how he thinks after an interview. He just goes, interesting. And it's not until the next interview that you hear him say, I believed that last interview.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't know. I think he's just an exercise in free speech. And that's what this studio is about too. That's why I said I like having the red pill and the pink pill and the churchgoer and then the hell man, or whatever.
The hell man.
The OnlyFans model and the altar boy. And it's because I think we need that. I didn't think I was like a person facilitating freedom of speech, but podcasting itself, at least as it exists now, you can be canceled by people, but you can't be deplatformed, which is what happened during COVID. And you people like YouTube were deplatforming people that telling the truth. I don't know. It's like this kind of got political, but that's how I feel.
I know we just went off on a tangent. Should we? Do we have time to get to the?
Yeah, let's keep it. What are we at right now? 104. We got 30 minutes. I know that we started early.
Okay,
Let's go.
Cool. Okay, cool. So we originally had a whole different topic for the show
this is not
that we haven't even gotten to yet. But let's introduce the topic. So you are somebody, you mentioned Sticky Paws. You are very busy. You're here more than you are at home, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
spend more
everybody's
time
kind of here.
Yeah.
I think everybody's kind of here more than they are at their probably with their loved ones, right?
No, 100%.
And you and I were kind of talking a little bit about that last week, and I kind of wanted to pick your brain about, like, you're in a relationship, you're in a happy relationship, but how do you navigate working so much? Because you kind of set that boundary with her early on, didn't you? You were
Immediately.
Look, this is kind of what happened there.
It was a make or break situation. As when I started Sticky Paws with John, I was dating somebody out of COVID, and COVID obviously because it was lockdown, I spent a lot of time with this person. And I'm not a homebody. I'm a very active person, but COVID kept me out of the streets. So I we spent a lot of time together.
Out of the streets.
But when I started to build the studio, literally the studio needed to be built by somebody, and that was this person, me. So I was spending literally 17-hour days here, just setting up the equipment, testing stuff, exploring, not on top of actually recording the podcast. And I was the only employee. There was no employees.
Did
it was just
you
me.
develop Sticky Paws during COVID? Is that
2021 is when
Okay.
we opened. March 6th, 2021 is our official start day.
Okay.
And obviously months prior to that I was building it, and I just noticed that this person that I loved all of a sudden had a problem with how much time I was spending at work. And I grew up with my mom and dad working their ass off every single day, long days, so I was just time spent with somebody doesn't necessarily mean love, right? So I knew that I was putting the effort of love in, but I couldn't give the time. And because we had spent most of our relationship through COVID having nothing but time, we never tested this part of our relationship. So I was super shocked by oh my God, you're saying that you're going to be mad or I'm going to finish my day's worth of work. After that kind of happened, I just had to for the sake of both of our happiness, I just had to end the relationship. It was the hardest thing I did because I thought I found the person, I thought I found my person. And there's our families meshed really well. I integrated her into my life. My family cried when I dumped her. That's how into the relationship we were. But I had to just make what I would call an almost sociopathic decision that I knew that I didn't want my life to be affected by love in that way. I wanted love to support what my goals were. And granted, my goals changed. I was going to school for cinematography, and then I got the opportunity to start a studio, and that studio took a lot of time. But in my head, I was going to spend a lot of time doing cinematography anyways, so it's whatever. So I broke up with her, and then I just kind of my next girlfriend is going to have to be okay with my job coming first, which sounds wrong. Because if you said because if any relationship is oh yeah, my husband loves me, but he loves his work more, and nobody says that's okay. That's not. I'm sure if a lady came to you and they said their husband is only focusing on work.
I don't know if she would have gotten the okay from me.
Right. You would have been girl, you need to go, find someone else or something. But I knew that maybe that person didn't exist, and that would have been okay because at least I knew I wouldn't be hurting anyone. But I knew that if I was going to find that person, they would have to be okay with me spending a lot of time at work. And that's not because I don't want to spend time with them. It's just because I care so much about what I'm trying to build here. And when I met my girlfriend, Christina, I met her on a production set. And if you know anything about filmmaking, you spend minimum 12-hour days and sometimes 14-hour days, multiple days. And then if you're a gig life, you will spend a week working and then a week sleeping just because you're so exhausted. And so she understands that. She understands long hours and putting every ounce of every mental effort into something and then being extremely exhausted. So when we started to kind of talk and hang out, I very clearly said, Sticky Paws comes first, or my work comes first. We need to find a way that this relationship will work in this environment or else it just won't. And I was very clear with all of my Tinder dates before her and anybody I was exploring with. I laid it out and almost nobody was okay with it except for her. And I think what saved that is that I moved in with her.
Okay.
Moving in was probably the best thing I could have done to have a relationship with this thing. Because if I was having to go home and then like go see her, I would not see her. I would only see her on the weekends, and the relationship wouldn't work out. And I think that's something I never thought I would need. I think that if we were like lived in different places, we wouldn't work. And that's why I think long distance relationships never work, because what's the benefit? I mean, I don't understand. Like your life will be better separating and then reconverging than it will be staying and then trying to keep
I
it
think
work.
long distance can work for a period of time. I was in one and it was actually incredibly successful.
For how long?
We did that 6 months back and forth, but
it was just 6 months, and after 6 months, it was you guys
after
met each
that
other.
there was a plan. The thing was that made it successful is we had rules. So
boundaries.
We had just like you. So very, very clear boundaries. So like we did go 2 weeks without seeing each other. We took turns flying back and forth to each other. So it was like clockwork. And then and then we had specific times every night that we didn't make plans, and we talked to each other and we connected, and so it worked. It was very successful.
Right.
Yeah, very healthy relationship. But yeah, I moved here, and then
I have a problem where if it's not in front of me, I don't think about it. Not object permanence, but mental thought permanence, where I'm a very present person. So if I'm not in front of my girlfriend, or my girlfriend's not texting me, it's very easy to just not worry about it or not think about that. It's not because I don't love her. It's not because I don't care about her. It's because I'm just hyper-focused, and that's what makes me good at my job.
Yeah, and there's a big... See, that can... You know what? This is actually a really good example, because some people can say that that's a narcissistic trait, okay? Is out of sight, out of mind. And they're not wrong. It is. But that's why we look at patterns and not like traits or like moments like this. And like what you're saying is really kind of... It's unique. It's not I don't care about this person. It's not that this person is not important to me. It's just hyperfixation, focused, and you're like, I'm going to finish this task before I move on to something else. It's a way that your brain processes information, but those things can be really misinterpreted. Yeah,
I'm a monotasker. I'm a serial monotasker, and the way I described it to my girlfriend, which she did not understand, like her brain isn't wired like this, so she had to just accept it and not understand, or accept not understanding it and just let it be. But there's a big contention where it's just like, I'm not texting you back because I don't love you or I don't care about you. I'm not texting you back because I don't want to text you back and that be our relationship, where I'm just not paying attention to you, but like placating. Like if I feel like placation is happening, I will just not. I choose genuine 100% of the time.
I love that. And one thing that you're doing that I think is so cool that so many people don't do is you had the tough conversation right away. Like you said, like, because something that's really important to you obviously is alignment. You need somebody that is aligned and fits into whatever your purpose and your mission is. And that's foundation for any successful relationship. You got to know what you're here to do. You have to have that, right? And so somebody's either going, and you weren't willing to deviate outside of your purpose. Not that you're not willing to be compromising or anything like that, but you weren't willing to deviate from your purpose and what you're here to do and your mission for that period of time. So you're like, I'm either going to have somebody align with me or they're not. And what's really cool is that you were open and honest. Now, a lot of people don't do that because they're afraid of losing the relationship, right?
Right. Well, it's easy to do in the beginning of the relationship because then you're kind of okay with
I would
losing
recommend doing it in the beginning because you're not as attached, right?
100%.
And
like
it's harder when you're like, let's just say you're really attracted to them and you're like, oh, I'll just deal with it later. The attachment grows. And pretty soon you're just like, you've now entertained somebody that you had no business entertaining. And now you feel attached and it's harder to leave that person. But that alignment was never there.
I'm a bigger picture kind of guy. So I will have pain today for a better tomorrow sort of thing.
I don't feel like a lot of people are like that.
So I'm okay with making my girlfriend upset for something that I care truly about today for a better relationship in the future. And that is very evident because I made her cry a lot. But like that's just because she's an emotional person, not that she's crying out of whatever. But like I said, for example, I'm around a lot of attractive women at this studio. We have OnlyFans models, people who care about their appearance, fitness. Like we have a CrossFit gym, like people with 10 packs. It's like immensely ridiculous. And I just had to tell her like, I'm going to be around these people and you're going to have to be okay with it. And if you're not, that's a problem. And then she gets emotional about like how I'm being so direct. And then I know that it's just like, but now that I've said it, I don't have to say it again. And if it's a problem, then that's her choice to like whether or not she's fit for me. And
That's
I
good.
let
You're
her make
giving-
these choices.
Well, what you're giving her is the option to choose, right? You're giving her free will, and you're not what you do that's so different than what Red Pill does. And here's the distinction: is you don't impose it on her.
Mm-mm.
What you're doing is just saying, look, this is what's important to me. Like this is like you get to choose how you want to show up to this, but this is what I can offer you right now.
Right.
Were you always this direct?
I think it was my ignorance of relationships when I like I had not had any physical relationship with anybody until I graduated, until I started college. And what that did is I overanalyzed relationships, and I noticed that, like I was just forward because I was scared, so I was just like I want the quickest way to the end, or to the means of what I'm trying to do. So if I want to kiss this person, I said, can I have a kiss, right? Or can I kiss you? Like, I'm not going to play this like dance that I've never played before and try to figure it out and fumble and then whatever. So when it came to the relationships, I just think I learned better questions to ask as I went through relationships. And I think I've never felt better. I tackle every single problem in my life head on. Like there's a check engine light on my car, I fix it. My girlfriend's sad for some reason, I try to fix it. Oftentimes I should just listen. That's the problem. And then, but when it comes to like, problems here, like I don't feel anxiety about something, I go into fixing mode or I go into solving mode. So if I want to solve a relationship problem or tackle a relationship parable or challenge, which I think a relationship is truly a challenge because it's not easy, I have to be direct. And sometimes that might not be the most tactful way to do something, but it's definitely forces your partner to start considering things that they would have never considered until it's been challenged. And every single time I've done it, I've always felt better. I never sleep on the couch. And like ultimately, she knows where I stand. And she can, if she's still not happy with that, then that's her choice. And I would be sad if we broke up or whatever. But I'm happy to know that she's happy and that I'm happy and that I didn't hurt her, or that she didn't compromise something for me. And I'll even identify the reverse. If she's not happy with something, I will ask what I need to do to compromise. And as irrational as I may think it is, because like I think in a certain way, I'll placate. I will adjust my habits to just be like, I know I'm doing this for love, not because it's right. It's just because
So
that's what it means.
like, is there a point, like, because you say work comes first, but you're also such a family guy. Like you care very much about relationships, the relationships that you cultivate here, the relationships that you have with everybody. Like you're a big relationship person. Like how does that fit in with work coming first? Like, is there a point in your life where you see that shifting where she becomes more of a priority? Or like, do you have to have, like, what happens if you have kids with her one day? Like what happens, because sometimes what I see with younger men, okay, and you're young,
Definitely. Very young.
Yeah, younger men that are like starting out, right? I think men have to build before they start adding on. They have to kind of have this foundation of, it's like this innate thing that men have, right? It's like, I need to be secure. I need to make sure that I'm financially successful. I need to focus on my business before I start adding on girlfriend, wife, kids. And they prioritize that, but then there's usually a point where it switches.
Right. I think I'm in the switching moment.
Okay.
Like, I never understood. I don't think my brain was developed. I think I understand when people say like your brain's not developed till you're 25 or something. Like I get it now because like my brain is thinking in a much more mature way. And I think it's because I did move out finally and I did experience life and now I have to worry about bills and stuff and taxes. But when it comes to this, like I think by saying work comes first isn't literally saying work comes first. I think what will make me happy in my life is the fulfillment through work or through what I'm trying to achieve. Because what I'm not, when I say work is...
Let's say this. I'm going to give you a better word to use. Purpose.
There you go. My purpose is to be a creative person. And whether that's... And I just think that this is the best means to a financial freedom plus creativity. Like not many people are happy or get creative fulfillment and can make money from it. And this is like a situation where I find that I really love technology and like workflow and this stuff. So I want to keep achieving and driving towards that. So when I say work comes first, is like, relationships shouldn't, God, I don't know. You've never made me think like this before.
I know. I'm going to, like, here's kind of my thoughts on it. Okay. And like what I see. Like, It's off-putting to hear that, especially from you, because I know how invested you are in relationships. So I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit when you say work comes first. What I think men need, and I think all men need this, is purpose,
Mm.
a vision of themselves. And I think that can absolutely come first. I think you have to have a foundational piece of here is what I'm here to do, because how can a man lead you if they don't know what they're doing?
Right. You have to
How
have
can a man
conviction.
provide for the family? How can he be a safety for the woman or his children in his home? If you're a traditional household, okay?
Sure.
How can he do that if you do not know thyself? Like, you really can't, right? And I am a firm believer that a man's happiness comes and is derived from purpose
Hmm.
and is derived from something greater than himself. And it's a way that you're here to do something beyond yourself. I fully believe that, and I think it's really important for men to get connected to that. And then alongside of that comes the relationship piece,
Hmm.
right? So that's what I feel like you're describing.
I think what I'm trying to say is that the most dynamic thing I want in my life is my work or what I do. Because, like, ultimately, I'm not going to, unless I don't settle down with somebody. For a second there, my sexuality and my work were both on par of dynamic. And I did
Hmm.
not like that the fact that I needed to get laid every week by somebody on Tinder was inhibiting my work. So, like, it's just makes logical sense to find a relationship that works with it
Mm-hmm.
and then make this stable and then focus on something that's really ever changing and dynamic and fluctuates and up and down, good days, bad days, whatever. But I need stability. So when
Mm-hmm.
I say work comes first is like, yeah, like that will always be changing. So work has to come first because tomorrow might not be the same day as yesterday. However, I make a concerted effort to, if I value something else, that I will make work come first and this. That's why I say I want my kid to be at work, like with me. Like I want work to come first. So I'm willing to solve other problems to make it still work come
Do you
first.
think work comes first in every situation?
I think no. When you really go micro,
Yeah.
it obviously doesn't. I think in my
Yeah.
life though, if it's like if it's lose my sense of being and then just become a father, no. For example, my mom didn't lose her sense of being when she had a kid. She made her kid a part of her being that she was this person that worked. And I think that everyone should achieve that. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are going to be days where like I do work and then my girlfriend works or my wife or whatever. My girlfriend works and like I have to give my kid to my mom, right? To take
Mm-hmm.
care of. But if I strive to make an ever dynamic situation always accommodate for something that I truly value, like family and stuff, then it'll be fine. Like I won't do business that affects my ability to see my kid. If I have to, if somehow Sticky Paws says you're not allowed to see your kid, okay,
Mm-hmm.
goodbye, Sticky Paws.
Yeah.
I will change what work means, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll still come first, but it needs to fit. Like that's why I want a daycare here. I want my kid to be here.
I like the idea of having a daycare here. That sounds like so
I
fun.
mean, yeah, it'll accrue costs, but I think that's just like I value happiness too. Like
Yeah,
so.
but like I feel like that's family and relationships too. Like, it's like what you're trying to do is you're trying to integrate them
Yeah.
because you don't want to
Well,
choose.
that's perhaps, and then that's why I love relationships here is because I know that if people like each other and the vibe is right and the
Yeah.
mentality's right, then there's less resistance to make work come first.
Mm-hmm.
Because if work is a happy, healthy, accommodating, family-oriented
Let me
place,
ask you
then it's
this.
not. It's
Uh,
not corporate world pencil pushers like business only. It's
why does work come first? Like, what do you tell yourself? Why is that so important?
because I grew up with actually I don't know because my family is like a traditional family, but they
Mm-hmm.
both worked, so I don't really know why I have this, but I think there's a part of me that's scared that I don't want my identity to be a not creative person. Like I want to be a father or I want to cultivate an environment, a tribe, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, that can be productive, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
want the ability to innovate and change with a group of people that I like.
That's
And
family.
that's family, but there's a lot of people who just go, okay, my work is too dynamic. Let me just settle my work down, work a 9 to 5 so I can focus on my family. Now you have two mundane things. Not that
Mm-hmm.
family isn't exciting, but it's mundane. You have not a lot changing, not a lot of expression here. You have not a lot of changing, not a lot of expression. Then you just need to invent a hobby I don't want a hobby. I want my work to be my hobby, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
instead of mowing along and feeling good about it, I want that to be my work. So I guess I'm exchanging my hobby to be my work. And then if it deviates from that, or if it for too long it goes to where I'm resent going to work, then I will change that. I don't want, if work is resentful, then I won't do it. So I guess that in that case there is a limit. I do have a bar, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I know you do. I know you do.
Oh, that's really interesting. You never made me think like this before.
Yeah,
So
I know you do. And like I still could pick at this a little bit, but I want to kind of move on.
Okay.
Like, because I don't think it's your number one.
What do you think my number one is?
I think your number one is relationships. I think you're incredibly invested in any relationship that you have because and look, you're not stuffy with it. Like, you're invested in everybody. And that to you is priority. The culture is the priority for you. It always has been. Work is the setting.
Correct.
But even when you're at work, it's the family you're creating.
Right.
That's why you want to bring your family here. You're prioritizing the family still.
I guess, yeah, and okay, that's fair. I think,
like I know that, and also work. And here's where I want to push you a little, okay? And look, I'm not here to tell you what you think or feel. I'm just here to challenge.
I
you a
love
little
being
bit.
challenged.
Okay,
Like, let's make it happen.
Work is usually an ends to a mean. It's a way that you're providing. A legacy is one of the things that I heard you say, but you didn't actually use those words.
Right.
You're like, a legacy for my family. I want to be known as this creative person. Well, you want to be known by who? The family and the culture that you're creating. Again, that's the priority. That's the number one. Work is the means, the avenue. The family is what you're valuing the most. The legacy is what you're valuing the most. Work is provision. It's a way that you're taking care of the family.
I guess it's like a mentality. When I'm at home watching Star Trek with my girlfriend, I'm not in a work mindset. Like, I'm extremely unproductive. I'm very lazy at home. Like, I don't want to, like, I just want to relax. When I'm at work, I'm extremely hyper-focused. And I guess that's what I don't want to lose is the reason to innovate, right? A lot of people stop learning when they leave college or when they get out of high school. Like, I don't want that to happen. So I guess that's what I mean by work is I need, it doesn't have to be a solitary environment where I'm like, I don't have distractions or like, purpose other places. It just needs to be a place that like I'm given permission by my tribe to work, to make things happen. And that sometimes is like, the moment I go home, I don't work at home because I have boundaries. They're just different places, different mindsets. And that's why I like going to work. And that's when you go to bed, you sleep, right? I don't exist in my bed or else I would never sleep. So I don't want to work at home because then I won't have a home. That's why I love hyper fixating or monotasking everything. And I guess that's what I mean by work. I need that permission from the people in my environment to kind of be distant or to.
So you guys are kind of at a good place then with the schedule that you have?
Yeah, we manage. There's some weeks where it's like she's working and I'm working and it's just really tough. And
what do you like when like working as much as you do, like what have you found that works for you guys to keep your relationship in a good place? Like, are there things that you do to connect things? Like, are you like how are you intentional with her time? Like,
I think there's a lot of weekends where we're not intentional and that is damaging, but it ebbs and flows. Like, it's usually when we have extra money that we kind of like exercise our hubris in terms of like how do we define that? Like, we used to like travel to the Grand Canyon and do a lot of traveling in the beginning of our relationship, but now that work has become a bit more demanding, we've had to dial that back. So it's intentional dates on the weekends. Like, it's not that I don't work on a Saturday, I don't work on a Sunday. It's I don't know, because I think we're actually having to we're not struggling, but we're working that part out. Because a perfect day for her because she's not working is not a perfect day for me. Like, so I almost can't plan days. I have to let them happen spontaneously.
Have you guys ever done like the love language test?
We have.
What are you?
Our love language, she likes cooking, so her love language is feeding.
Acts of service.
Acts of service, right? Mine's physical touch and quality time. But quality time isn't necessarily like going hiking. It's like, okay, I'm monotasking with you. And
that's actually a good point about quality time, is because a lot of people think quality time is just time, and it's like, no, it's quality time. So it's whatever is quality to the person.
Correct.
So you could be sitting there watching a TV show with her, but if you're not, if you're not doing A, B, C, D while you're watching or invested in the show, she might not perceive it as quality time.
Correct. Yeah, and like I think I've success. It just get like we have to find variation in our quality time, because whenever our quality time becomes the same,
What's her second one? Her first was acts of service. What's her second one?
I think I've changed her. She's had a lot
Yeah.
of kind of like bad boyfriends that treated her bad. So at first it wasn't physical touch because she actually didn't like to be touched, but
Is it
now it's physical touch.
Well, that's fucking great.
Because like she realizes how compassionate I am.
That's
physically.
really like what you did is you created a lot of safety for her. If she's
Definitely.
able to do that. See, it always was touch, but she had an aversion.
I think so. Yeah, she like
Trust me, it was.
she couldn't look at me our first like month or two dating. Like
Really?
she couldn't stare at me. Like she would like always like glance and look away.
Oh.
Like, and it was like, it's something that I tried very hard. I try to break a lot of, in relationships or in our relationship, I try to break all the barriers. I'm like, how soon will she poop in front of me? Like, it's kind of like, how soon can we shower
Why
together?
do you do that?
Just because like, I want to get out of the way. Like, let's not do the dance. Like
you just can't handle, you have to have the realness right away.
Yeah, because like, okay, what are we here for? I'm not like,
Yeah.
why? Like, why? Like, I get like we have to build trust, but if we're here, been together for a year, I've not shown any sign of cheating or being interested in other people. Like, I'm signing a lease together. Like, you need to stop being a little insecure and let's just poop in front of each other. You know, let's fart in front of each other. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Like,
it's kind of cool that you opened it up though, because it is one of those taboo things in relationships, and it does create a lot of anxiety for people. It really does. And I think it really helps when you can kind of use humor to create some levity with some of those things, because yeah, girls still have issues with that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like, I had to break a lot of like the woman things, like oh, she's on her period. I'm like, okay, like, you know, sex isn't stopping. Like, you know, like you don't need to feel
I feel
ashamed.
like most guys don't care when you're on your period.
Well, it
I don't
depends.
know.
It depends if you have white sheets or not.
Okay.
But in general, like, there's a lot of things that like ladies internalize because of whatever societal, you know, things, and I want to capture all those things so I just don't have to dance. I want to go home and be myself, and then that be okay with her. And it's not that I'm not willing to compromise. It's that I don't want to always be afraid of making them upset. So if they know that, even though that's like my choices, they need to understand like behind my choices are complete wholesomeness. And then if I'm direct that all the time, so when I talk to them, they trust, not that they trust me, that they know I'm telling the truth. And it might not be what they want to hear, but they know I'm being honest. So when I say I'm not cheating, or when I say,
well, you're building trust.
yeah, it's all,
And that is
it's
how
just
you
trust.
build trust. It's those small things,
It's
right?
so many small things. It's like, you know, I don't know. Like, it's just, I like being direct, because then if I'm not direct, then I'm lying in some way. And then I can't keep lies. I don't have enough mental capacity to keep a lie. I'm not good at lying. So I have to be direct. And I think that there's some people call it like autism or like sociopathy or something. Call it what you need. It's a great trait to have that more people should have, because then they'd be nice to each other and honest. If people knew that everyone is just being honest, then I think life would be better.
Oh my God, how much nicer would that be?
Oh, I think that's why I like criticism so much here. Like
I'm all for feedback. I love feedback, believe me. But criticism is something different, because, like, I'll say constructive criticism is fine, but not everybody that criticizes you is trying to be constructive.
Well, you have to trust the opinion of the person.
Well, I always say this: you always consider the source. Like, I don't go to a liar and ask them for the truth.
Right.
Right? Like, I don't do that, right? I'm not going to you for your opinion. I'm not going to Red Pill for, like, I'm just not. Like, the agenda is not there. When people have an agenda, they're there to push an agenda, not actually give you or have a conversation with you. Like, that's why a lot of people are just trying to push their own narrative, not actually strike up a conversation. And a lot of people aren't even open to what you have to say. And so I think that's why you know, your audience is super important. Like, who are you actually talking to? Are you talking to somebody that's open? Are you talking to somebody with the intent to hurt you? Unfortunately, we have to consider those things now. But feedback, valuable. Like the dialogues that we create here, like, super important, right? Valuable. But, you know, a lot of people don't know how to manage that. And a lot of people, as soon as you say something they don't like, they're in attack mode.
Yeah, that's why I'm in an interesting position, because I get to hire the people that work here.
Yeah.
So I don't know about the other guys, but I think they feel the same ways. I have to trust the person. Therefore, when I bring out an idea and I'm vulnerable, if I hire them, then I already gave myself them permission to like criticize. So even the interns that work here, like, they pass the sniff test, and they can unpass it if they do some crazy stuff. But if they say it sucks, like, I want to hear it. I don't think that will immediately change my decision, but it's definitely their perspective that's really important.
When you're creating culture, right? Because you've done like the hiring here and you've started this thing from the ground up. What are you looking for?
Vibes first.
Is that when you say vibes, what do you mean?
Like, can they hang? Will they get offended easily? Will they, are they anxious? Are they driven? Do they have purpose outside of the building? Do they want to be a sports reporter? Great. That's better than them wanting to be an engineer, a podcast. If they come here wanting to be a podcast engineer, I'm skeptical. You can have that be your purpose, but that's not right. There's always something else. I want to be an astronaut. Like, it needs to be something else. And then that will will drive different choices. Like, I want diversity, cultural diversity here. Like, I need George is a sports guy. Austin's an editor nerd. Trey is a gamer. Like, I am a cinematographer. I think like we all have to be unified and have different perspectives to provide value. And if they are just too much of a yes person, or I'm here to just do the thing and show up to work, and like that's not really what I want. And I think eventually it'll happen when I stop hiring personally, but hopefully I can hire the people to hire that way. And that's the next step that I have to figure out. It's like hiring the hiring person. And then it'll just, the culture should remain. I'm okay with a less productive work environment when everyone is cool and everyone's good. And the moment there's like riffraff, I sit them down and I'm like, figure it out. Or one of you's quitting.
Okay.
Because either of you or both of you are quitting, and then I will rebuild the team that it needs to be. Otherwise, then I won't want to show up, or I won't trust, that I scratch your back, you scratch yours. Like, oh no, I'm sick today. No one should be like, oh my God, you got sick. Oh, I hate him. No, it's like, okay, we're here to accomplish a goal. It's fun when we're back there and we take mini breaks where we go for a walk or get some sun. It's not about like, we're driven. We're a project driven company.
I will tell you, this place feels like family.
Yeah.
It really does. Like, I love coming here. I love talking to everybody. We all have just like, after the show's filming, guys, I feel like we need a show for what happens after the show's done filming, because
we had a show called Behind the Sticky,
yeah,
that we wanted to do that, but it's also a lot of work to produce a show about not working. So until we have a bigger staff, we can't really do that yet.
But I love what you've, created here. And I think you're onto something big. You're going to be huge for sure.
Yes.
And I can feel it. We're putting all the positive vibes out there. Well, guys, we're going to have to wrap up for today.
Oh, a 2-hour podcast isn't enough? Okay.
You and I could talk for forever. We spent the first hour not talking about what we were supposed to talk about, but that's okay.
Okay.
We threw some alien shit in there for you guys. Enjoy.
Yeah. The clips out of this episode is going to be diverse.
It's going to be real. Me trying to write the summary for this episode is going to be fun.
We touch on aliens, relationships, and also, society. Wow, what a diverse.
I know. But Trav, I appreciate what you've done for my show.
Yeah.
I appreciate you really stuck your neck out there for me, I think. And I think you do for everybody. And I just appreciate the support that you've given me, that you give everybody here. You're creating something absolutely beautiful, and it was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you. I love talking about myself. But most importantly, when we have podcasters come through here, clients, or they're on the network or whatever, they have to pass that same sniff test. Unless they're just have a bucket load of cash, then that's different. But if it's, I need it to be a family unit, and I need everyone to kind of get along. And so
I passed the sniff test, guys.
You pass it. Sounds weird, but it's the vibe check. It's past the vibe check. Maybe it's not sniff test. I don't know. It's kind of weird. My shirt's past the sniff test, not my family,
Well, Trav, where can people find you at?
You can find me on Instagram at Travis Flesher, or on Twitter at Travis Flesher, or on anything at Travis Flesher. And if I don't have it on there, don't steal my name. Let me just make the account first, and then you can connect with me on there.
Well, on that nose, guys, thank you so much for tuning. I said nose
on
because we're talking about sniffing. Oh my God. Oh my God. Kill me now. Oh God. On that note, guys, tune in, pop the pink pill. See you later.